And good morning. This is Timothy from the Jefferson County General Assembly.org. And the Jefferson County General Assembly being a group of unincorporated sovereign people who desire to recreate and establish the common law grand juries in Jefferson County, Pennsylvania. So if you're interested, please give me a call. Go to Jefferson County General Assembly.org and my information is on that website. So moving on, the video that I wanted to make today, because I get people and listen to people all the time talking about this issue, and it's really a fairly simple thing to deal with. I don't want to explain all the ins and outs because it would take too long, but we have the freedom to travel freely unencumbered by statute, rules, or regulations. Um, Actually, here I have that marked in this book. Now, this is the Supreme Court of the United States, put out by the Oxford University. And over here, this is under Shapiro versus Thompson, whenever I find it. Okay, here we go. Shapiro versus Thompson, 394 U.S. 618. And this is a decision that was actually made concerning welfare people. But the right to travel, and you'll find the right to travel documented in a bunch of different places. So, I mean, you can quote this or not. There are a dozen different Supreme Court places where you can go. But I'm going to go ahead and read this quick. The Supreme Court agreed with the lower courts and emphasized that among fundamental personal liberties, which is our rights, is the freedom to travel. Throughout the length and breadth of our land, uninhibited by statute, rules, or regulations, which unreasonably burden or restrict the movement. That's the Supreme Court. Okay, so the Supreme Court has basically said, of course, we have the right to travel. So I've written down six things that we can talk about quickly as far as how to defend yourself or not. So you have a choice. And the first choice on my list is pay the fine. So you can pay the fine and just be done with it. But I'm sure you're watching this video because that's something you are not desiring to do. And you probably want to know why or how to at least defend yourself. So the first option I'm going to talk about is send these people a letter. So you get a citation. You don't want to upset the officer because they carry a weapon. You know, they have a weapon on their side, and you know most people don't carry a weapon with them. So you're talking to an officer of the court who believes they have the right to use that weapon in whatever way necessary. So I would suggest, if you decide to do this, is to pay the fine. Secondly, is to write a letter. Okay, so you write a letter, and I'm going to what I'm going to do is if I go that route, I'm going to ask, where is this citation going to be tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock? And he's going to tell me what jurisdiction he's from, or what precinct or whatever, and where that citation is going to land on whose. It's no doubt going to land at a magistrate's desk. so that you can, if you have a choice here, you can go and deal with that thing, which is going to be number 3 on my list. But number 2 is you can write a letter. So you're going to write a letter, and this is the letter that I would write. Now, of course, I can't give any legal advice, but as a counsel under the Fifth Amendment, we're allowed to have counsel. So I'm just giving you general information. One of the things that I've seen online that people have done, and I've actually written this up myself for other people, is to write up a letter. I actually have a copy of this on my website. Write up a letter that basically says, you're going to put the docket number, you're going to put your name and the pertinent information, and then you're going to write in there that who you are. Now, I'm going to tell you it's best if you've done your homework, if you've done your paperwork. If you've already done your paperwork, you put your paperwork on the land, on the soil of your birth state at the land jurisdiction. This is going to be really easy. If you haven't, then it's still going to be really easy. But, I would rather have my paperwork in place before anything ever happens, so that when it happens, all I have to do is pull out the paperwork. Otherwise, it's just your word. But your word is valid. It's 100% valid. So you're going to make a claim on this letter that you're writing, and the claim is simple. I am a man at American common law at the jurisdiction of the land domiciled on the soil of my birth state, whatever that might be. And then, and of course you want to make sure that you are someone who can be sovereign. I should preface this by saying, if you're a black man, you may have to claim to be a Moor from Spain, because they were actually sovereign. I mean, I don't care what you claim. You could claim to be a Viking. I don't care. you know, Vikings might have been black. I don't know. And I've said this before. It's sad the way that black people are considered servants because they have civil law but not sovereign law. Nevertheless, there's things you can deal with, things the way you can deal with this. At any rate, I yeah. At any rate, I would send them a letter, and on the bottom or somewhere on the letter, I would put plea is equal to no plea. Because that's what the magistrate wants you to do. The magistrate wants you to either pay the fine or show up and make a plea. See, so they can move forward. If you don't make any plea, then they cannot move forward. So what happens is when you write them a letter and you sign that, you document that, and you have it notarized, then you have 3 days to do this. So you do your paperwork and you send it in. And by doing that, you're placing yourself on the soil and you're telling them basically they don't have jurisdiction. And what you're doing is pleading no plea. And what happens is this thing gets suckered back in the corner until the statute of limitations runs out on it. And by doing that, what happens is you're not going to have a constable show up at your door saying, "Come with me." Okay, so that's what I'm giving you as a first choice. That way you don't have to actually talk to anybody. The second choice is at 9 o'clock in the morning, you know where this citation is going to be sitting on someone's desk. You go there and you do the exact same thing that I'm talking about with that person. You explain to them that they must prove jurisdiction. And it's just that simple. And if you have your paperwork already done, if you have an authenticated birth certificate in your hand and you're saying, "I'm the holder in due course, what gives you the right to use my name?" Well, you can pretty much assume what should happen next. So you can deal with it that way. The third way being, if you actually end up in court, let's say these people don't even care about the letter. Let's say they don't care what you tell them, the magistrate, and they just shuffle you through anyway. So you end up in court, and this has happened, where the magistrate will say, "I'm putting in a plea of not guilty. You have to show up to court." Okay, because the best part about going to court is somebody gets paid. So make sure you make out a bill when you win. All right. And so the point being here, when you go into court, you want to go into your court. Okay, there are three ways to basically deal with this court that I know of, and any of them will work. But you want to, if you're going to do this at common law, then you're going to want to open up your court, which means when you go into court, you're going to make your claim. For example, I'm a man at American common law, the same as I just said, and I am here under the law of the Republic, the Declaration of Independence, 1776, and the Constitution for the United States of America, and the 5 organic laws. The 5 organic laws are the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, Constitution for the United States of America, the Bill of Rights, and the Northwest Territory Agreement. Okay, so you can play this in different ways, but what you want to do is set them up. You want them to know that you are in your own jurisdiction as a man, and that being the case, then you're going to move forward. Moving forward, they're going to probably ask you these questions 3 times to establish for the record who you are, and then you're going to land the bombshell, and you're going to say something like, I require the one who brought this action into this room to step forward now to verify the claim. And nothing's going to happen. These guys are going to talk among themselves because the one that you're asking to come forward, there isn't anyone. You're the only man in the entire room. See, you're the only sovereign man. These people are dead entities. They are clowns. They are dead entities. They are the captain of the ship, of his ship, not yours, because you're not on the ship. You're not a U.S. citizen. You're not a taxpayer. You're not a resident of Pennsylvania or of any state. You are not what they call an individual or a human. Whenever they say things like, "Don't you understand English?" Your answer will be, "I understand the English from the Oxford Dictionary," because they use languages that are not English, and they sound like English, but they're not. So if you get a piece of paper and paperwork, and on it there's it'll say like County of Jefferson in all capital letters at the top of your paperwork. Well, that's a foreign corporation owned and operated by either the British or the French. In this case, it would be the French under the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund. So the municipal corporation is a foreign jurisdiction. So again, you're at common law, and you have to understand the jurisdiction. The jurisdiction that you are in is called the jurisdiction of the land, and they're not allowed on the land. So they have to prove jurisdiction. So what you're telling them to do is to bring forth the man. So you're going to end up saying this probably 3 times. It's going to be, I require. Now you can do this in different ways. You can demand something from them. You can wish something from them. You can desire something from them. The easiest and best way is to say, I wish, require, and demand. That way you're doing something that's nice, understandable, but with emphasis. but I like just using the word require because it makes sense. So I require that the one who brought this action into this room should come forward now to verify the claim. So see what happens is when you go into their court, they claim that the state has taken you into court. Well, there is no state. How can a corporation take a man into court? Well, they can't, and that's the whole point. So you do this 3 times, and after the 3rd time, you're going to say, "Your Honor, am I the only man in the room?" Yes, I believe I am the only man in the room. Therefore, there is no cause of action here today. This thing needs to be thrown out, without prejudice, because there is no cause of action, and that's what should happen, because they have no jurisdiction, and you're the only actual man in the court. So only a man is 3-dimensional. A man has a voice. So when you go into court, you have a voice. Now, I should preface this. When you go into court, anytime you go into court, you need to do paperwork. You need to do paperwork before you go into court. Now, the paperwork doesn't have to be complicated. Paperwork can be 1 page, really, really simple. And your paperwork can take on several different things. I would suggest that you do if you already have your deed reconveyed to the soil, and you already have your act of expatriation and your assumed names, and you already have your authenticated birth certificate like I do, any one of those will work as something that you need to hand into the court. You just have to hand something in to the court so they know that you're present. That's you saying, "Hey, I'm here." Now, what you can do is put a front page on that, like you grab up your reconveyance deed and you put a front page on it. The front page says Harmon versus Pennsylvania, because it's the state that they're saying is coming against you. So it's Harmon v. You put a line, so you just going to be Harmon, a line, Pennsylvania. That's all you need to do. Or Harmon v. Pennsylvania. And then under it, I would write interfering with my private property. And that's it. Interfering with my private property. Because interfering with my private property can be anything. But in this particular case, it's my right to travel. So my private property is my right to travel. So they're interfering with that right. And so that's where you go with it. But you're not ever actually really needing to talk about it because they haven't even proven jurisdiction, because all you're asking is for the one who brought this action into this room come forward to verify the claim. And there isn't a man who is the one. There isn't any one to come forward. All right, so that's the next one. Now, the 2 more to go. The 4th one is one that now the 4th. Okay, that would have been the 4th one. The 4th one I learned from Carl Lentz, who's out of Virginia, and that works really well, and it makes the most sense for a man at common law. The next one I'm going to talk about, I learned from Carl Miller, who's out of Michigan. And you can find all these guys online. But Carl Miller does something a little different, and I like what he does. It's pretty simple. So he goes in, and basically, of course, they're going to ask who you are, and he says, jump right up there and get up there as fast as you can because you want to expedite this thing. You want to move quickly for the judge. You want to do this for the judge. Right. Okay, so you get up there in front and you say, "Your Honor, I want to see this thing expedited." So he mentions, he says, "Well, Your Honor, this guy's going to ask you questions." And for him, he was pulled over because he has no registration on his automobile. And of course, the judge, and this was a real judge in a real courtroom, and he's talking to the judge, and the judge says, "Well, what are you going to do about this?" And Carl says, "I'm not going to do anything about it." He says, about the registration, and Carl says, "I'm not doing anything about it." And the judge just sort of looks and he says, well, he says, why not? He said, and there's the cue. Why not? He says, well, because, Your Honor, I'm a man at common law. And he says, Shapiro versus Thompson, 394 U.S. blah blah says that I have the right to travel unencumbered by statute, rules, or regulations. Now, this is not exactly what he says. This is what I'm saying. And then he says, and he quotes Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105, which says, at no time can I trade my right to travel for a license with a fee. And then he quotes Shuttleworth versus Birmingham, which is 373 U.S. 262. And for me, what I say it says is, at no time while I'm walking within this freedom can it be considered a crime. And what Carl says is just something a little different. But at common law, what Carl is actually doing is saying, I have the right to travel, and driver's licenses are not constitutional, and because these things are not constitutional, they cannot be considered a crime. And then he says, for these reasons, Your Honor, there is no cause of action, and I think this thing should be dismissed without prejudice so that I can submit my bill to the court and get on down the road. And the judge looks over and says, okay, because there's nothing else to be said. So the last way, the sixth thing I have written down here is subrogation. And, you go into court as a man. You're always going to go into court as a man. You never go into court as anything but a man. You don't need to say you're anything else. Whenever you say I'm domiciled on the soil of Pennsylvania, you're still a man. Whenever I say I'm at the jurisdiction of the land, I'm still a man. Whenever I say I'm an American common law, I'm still a man. So the right to travel can be taken care of through subrogation, and I have a whole video on subrogation. But what basically subrogation means is these guys, whenever they go into court, they have to have a bond. A bond is to protect you. So the bond protects you from being damaged by them. So what you do, in order to be in the favor of the court, you need to do this if you want to stay in the favor of the court, which is obviously what you want to do. You don't want to move. You want to have, Your Honor, I need to have the bond certified for subrogation. At this time, as the priority creditor and subrogee, I require certification of the bond for subrogation. And of course, they're going to hem-haw around. They don't want to do that because the bond's worth $5,000. And what's going to happen is, and then you're going to say, and this is to pay the debt, to find relief for the debt, and send the rest of it to me. Because what happens is the court costs might be, I don't know, $800, $1,400, whatever it is. The court costs get paid out of that bond, and then you get the rest because it's in your name. So you're telling them, I want to use the bond that's in my name. It's my money. It's in my name at this time because I'm using it. Because it's a debtor note. It's a bond. All bonds are debtor's notes. So you really don't want to claim the thing for yourself because it wouldn't do you any good. But it's a bond in your name. So you claim it in subrogation to use it to pay the debt, and then you get the credit. And so those are the 6 things that I have to say about your right to travel. You have a right to travel freely, unencumbered by statute, rules, or regulations. Everyone does in the United States. And now, as long as you are sovereign, you're not going to have any problem with this. And so I hope this has helped. And I hope this has explained a few things. It gives you choices. And Have a wonderful day.